Looking at our world from a theological perspective. This is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good afternoon. Well, not by the time I'm done with this episode. So I should just say afternoon or questionable afternoon, bad afternoon, I regrettable afternoon. I don't know, but it is afternoon. It is Thursday, June the 20th, 2024. It is currently 2:08 p.m. Central Time, and I am coming to you live from the Theology Central studio located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, I really do. Some people may think I find great delight and pleasure, but I really do hate knowing that, hey, you're going to turn on the microphone, you're going to go live, you're going to put forth all of that effort, all of that time, put forth all of that thinking and consideration and work. And what's going to be the end result is 90% of the people are going to disagree with you. Many of that 90% are going to be extremely angry. They're going to either send you very negative emails, post negative things on YouTube, whatever the case may be, because most Christians are going to disagree with you. I don't necessarily like that. Now, I like the fact that I'm not, that I'm willing to go against the majority. I don't apologize for that. I am glad that I'm willing to do that, but it's not always pleasurable. It's not the thing like, hey, I could go do something else with my day, right? I could go do anything else. It's not like I'm making, money doing this. So, but why then? The question may be why? Why do you want to turn on the microphone and go against what most Christians think? Well, it's something I've basically been doing my whole Christian life. I just tend to question the way the majority thinks. I tend to challenge that. And in my perspective, there should be a large number of people who like that and support that and kind of welcome it, even if they don't always agree. For this reason, you need someone who will challenge the status quo, who will challenge the majority, who will at least question it, because then that challenges the way you think, and that should benefit everyone in some way, shape, or form. At least maybe I'm being naive, and maybe I'm thinking or trying to justify my constantly going against the majority. But going against the majority, look, has never gone well for me. I got kicked off Christian radio because I was going against the majority. I think in many cases, whatever success I found in ministry, I ultimately destroyed that success by continuing to question and challenge and change and refuse to just say, well, this is the way we believe, but constantly restudying things and being willing to change my perspective and questioning and hypotheses and testing it and thesis and not just learning theology, but doing theology. That puts you in a very awkward position. And this situation I'm about to talk about is going to put me once again in the minority. But I would pray that you hear, I pray and I beg and I plead that you will hear me out. And at least consider it, because I'm going to challenge something that I think most Christians would be like, yes, I support that. That needs to happen everywhere in the United States of America. Your initial response is going to be, yes, I support that. But I'm going to try to challenge it, not only from just a kind of a logical perspective. My main focus here is to challenge it from a theological perspective that I think our understanding here seems to deny what I think we claim to believe theologically. All right, so are you ready? So here's the thing. I don't know exactly, do I have a time? At 4:02 a.m., 4:02 a.m. Central Time, or as I like to refer to it as correct time, right? Texas time. 4:02 a.m., I get a notification on my iPad about a news story from the Associated Press. The headline reads, "New law requires all Louisiana public school classrooms to display the 10 Commandments." A new law requires all public schools in Louisiana to display the 10 Commandments. So I was like, oh, that's crazy. So I don't know, at some point, I think I probably fell back asleep, woke back up. I don't even know the chronological order of everything. But then I started just grabbing my podcast apps and just playing different news podcasts. And I heard it on a number of news podcasts talking about, hey, this new law requires Louisiana schools to publish the 10 Commandments in the classroom. And I just started shaking my head going, here we go again. Why is this such a desire? Why is this such a goal for many within the Christian world? We need the 10 Commandments published in every public school classroom in America. This is the way. We need to bring God back to the classroom. We will change everything. And it's so bizarre because it's like, so if we publish the law, that's the 10 Commandments would be the law of God. If we publish the law of God in the classroom, what are you hoping to accomplish? Typically what I hear, well, this will bring back morality. This will bring back a sense of wrong and right. And in many cases, when I hear Christians start talking, it seems to me that they don't even really understand the purpose of God's law. Now, we've done over 100 hours of teaching on this podcast about the proper distinction between law and gospel. And I think that what many Christians say about getting the 10 Commandments published in a public school classroom is that they don't really understand God's law in the slightest. And it really frustrates me. And so what people do, oh, you're some liberal. You're a communist. You're a socialist. You're who knows what. I'm a Satanist. Who knows what I'll be called? Because I'm opposed to it. I don't want the 10 Commandments published or posted in a public school. I do not. I think it's a public school. It's not a religious school. A lot of the Christians who argue about that go to their churches and go, where's the 10 Commandments? You want them published in a public school. Where are they at? They're not even in your sanctuary. Where are they? They're not at your front door. They're not in the parking lot. You got a big American flag there, but I don't see the 10 Commandments. But you want them posted in a public school. Well, post them in your church. You can go door to door. You can go door to door. Yes, I'm from the First Baptist Church down the street, and we're just handing out copies of the 10 Commandments. Here you go. Have a great day. You could put a table in front of your church when cars are driving by going, free 10 Commandments. You could hand them out. You could hand them out on the street corner. You can go anywhere. Why do you need the public school to do it for you? It's a public school. It's not a church. The church seems to sometimes want the school to do what the church is unwilling to do. Oh, we need the Bible taught in the public school. Why? Because it's not being taught in your church. You're too busy having fun, food, and games for the kids. So I'm opposed to it. And here I'm just going to break this down into two easy to follow arguments. First, if you want the 10 Commandments published, and everyone knows where I'm going with this. If you want the 10 Commandments published in a public school, you're going to have to then allow other religious documents, other religious statements of faith, other religious things to be posted and published in the same public classroom, and public school classroom. And I know many of you can go, no, this is a Christian nation. No, look, man, if the rights you demand are the rights you have to give. If you want the right to publish your religious text, your religious laws, the laws of God, then if you want them published in the classroom, then what stops a Muslim from wanting something from Islam published? Or everybody knows where I'm at. What do I have? Many of you know, you've been listening to this podcast forever. I have here in my hand the Satanic Bible. So why wouldn't the Church of Satan say we want published the 9 satanic statements? You've got your 10 commandments. Well, we've got 9 satanic statements. Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Satan represents a vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. I could go on and on. I could go through all the 9 statements. Why can't they? And people, no, that's not right. And Christians are so... It's so insane how Christians will act. If we want a nativity scene put in a governmental building, well, then the temple of Satan will come and say, well, we want to set up a display. No, tear it down. How dare you do that? Well, wait a minute. If you want the right, you have to give the right. If you deny them the right, then you have to deny yourself the right. Christians want some kind of special allowance. We get to do it. You don't. The Bible, not the Quran. The Bible, not the Satanic Bible. The 10 Commandments, nothing else. We want it all our way. We want a prayer in the public school, but it better be a Christian prayer. It better not be a prayer from a Muslim. What makes you so special that you get your religion in a public school? Public. Do you understand the word public? It's not private. You build your own private Christian school. Call it the School of the 10 Commandments. Make it a requirement that you cannot graduate from our school unless you can recite the 10 Commandments perfectly. When they walk across stage, you're like, I'm sorry, we cannot hand you your diploma until you recite the 10 Commandments. I'm sorry, you missed commandment number 3. Go sit down. Maybe next year you can graduate. Do that. I mean, come on, you can go to town. You can have a class on the 10 Commandments, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, open to the public at your church. You can announce it everywhere. We're going to do a class on the 10 Commandments every day of the week for the next 13 years. But no, you want the public school to do it. Why? The church can't get the job done? You need the help of the public school? Again, if you want it in the public school, then that's a right you demand. That's a right you must then give. If you deny others that right, you will ultimately deny yourself. And then the public school turns into what? Some kind of religious war? Public school has enough trouble teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic. Do we need to add something else? I mean, come on, we criticize the public school. It's so weird. Typically the Christians will criticize the public school nonstop and then turn around want the public school to somehow be responsible for, I don't know, teaching the Bible, leading prayer, and posting the 10 Commandments. As incompetent as we say they are, why would you want them anywhere near that? So are they incompetent or are they not? So that's my frustration with the whole concept, is you get the 10 Commandments in the public school. Congratulations. Now, it's only going to be 5 minutes. It's only going to be 5 minutes for someone's going to knock on the door. Yes, we're from the Church of Satan down the street. Or hey, we're from the mosque down the street. Or we're from this, or we're from that. And we want this published. Well, no, you can't do that. Well, you've got the 10 Commandments. Well, and then you try to make all kinds of rules. Well, it's not really religious. It's just a set of laws. Okay, then what other laws can you get? I mean, then it's a religious document. There's religious motivation behind it. That. Especially if you were a Christian, it's the law of God given to Moses. We believe it comes directly from God. So my first thing is just leads to logical inconsistency, and it just turns into a religious war, and then Christians get mad when someone else wants the same thing happened. Was it in the Iowa Capitol building where the Satanic Temple put up their display and someone tore it down because, oh no, we can't have Satan. Right, just very almost next to it was a Christian display, I think, of the Nativity. Well, if you can have one, you've got to have the other. It's so weird. If any rights of a Christian seems to be even possibly infringed upon, we scream, persecution, persecution. But then we want to deny other people the same rights we demand. That's just logically It's incoherent is what it becomes. It's just ridiculous. But here's my issue with it. And I'll just read a little bit of the news story. I know I kind of just jumped right to my commentary, but let me give you a little bit of my news story, or a little bit of the news story. All right. So again, from the Associated Press, I quote, Louisiana has become the first state to require that the Ten Commandments be displayed in every public school classroom. The latest move from the GOP dominated legislator pushing a conservative agenda under a new governor. The legislation that Republican Governor Jeff Landry signed into law on Wednesday requires a poster-sized display of the Ten Commandments in large, easily readable font in all public classrooms from kindergarten to state-funded universities. If you want to respect the rule of law, you've got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses. Well, I thought the original lawgiver was God. Isn't it God's law given to Moses? Okay, but all right. Who got okay, well, he does say, who got the commandments from God. So he has to acknowledge, then this is from God. So there's a religious aspect to this. They cannot deny it. All right, so the idea is, okay, we have a lack of respect for the law in society, and if we post the Ten Commandments, this will produce respect for the law and all those who read the Ten Commandments. So now I'm going to transition from my kind of logical argument against this process to now a theological one. I think many Christian parents, many churches, many programs, I can't necessarily say Awana itself, but programs like that really emphasize teaching the Ten Commandments to the kids. We've got to teach the Ten Commandments to the kids. They need to memorize them. They need to do that. And, God's top 10 commandments, it's this little song that you're supposed to teach kids in church. I've heard it in all kinds of different churches. They'll have a little kids program because after the kids learn the Ten Commandments, they learn this song, God's top 10 commandments. And then the kids come up in front of the congregation and they sing it. And everybody's like, oh, take some pictures. Oh, how cute. The kids learn the 10 commandments. Now, what's interesting is if you're like more theologically inclined, as everyone's taking, pictures and sending them to grandma and going, ooh, how cute. What I like to do is ask the kids, if I get an opportunity, so tell me about the Ten Commandments. What did you take away from the Ten Commandments? What do they mean? What did you learn about the Ten Commandments? Well, basically, a lot of times the kids will say, well, if I'm going to be a good boy or a good little girl, I have to keep the Ten Commandments. And if I don't keep the Ten Commandments, then I'm bad, and then God will be mad at me. Right? A moralistic understanding of it. It's moralism. Like you teach the Ten Commandments, so you want them to be good little boys and girls. This is a way for behavioral modification, but they completely miss the actual theological understanding of the law. And this happens in churches all over. Young people are brought up into a theistic moralism. It's not Christianity, because what they should say is, well, the law tells us what God demands, and what we see when we look at the law is that we do not keep it. We cannot keep it. We fall short of it. Therefore, we need Jesus, who came and kept the commandments for us. And when I put my faith in him, his obedience to the law is accredited to my account. They can't articulate that. They just know, if I do bad, then I'm bad. I've got to do good. I got to do good. I have to do good. If I want to be a good person, I've got to do good. Well, doing good doesn't make you a good person because you're a sinner by nature. You can never be good enough to be good in the eyes of God, because all of our good works is nothing but filthy rags before his holiness. Because our good is tested not by other little boys and girls, but by God. And he demands perfection, and your goodness is never perfect. Therefore, you're always in violation of God's law. And if you don't understand that, Jesus came and taught what is known as the Sermon on the Mount to really help us understand the very nature of the law, which demands perfection not only externally, but internally. And then if you still don't understand, he had a conversation with the rich young ruler who said, what must I do to have eternal life? And just said, keep the commandments. And he's like, I kept them. And Jesus is like, oh, you did? Well, then go sell everything you have and give it to the poor. And he could not do it because he does not keep the law, even though he thought he did. The law is there to reveal our inability to keep it. It is to condemn us, and it's to drive us to Christ. So if you post it in the classrooms, what do you hope to accomplish? Make everyone just moral? You just want moralism taught? You just want morality. I thought Christians, we're not there to promote morality. We're there to promote the gospel, which is God's law is perfect. We're not. We need Christ. Or do you just want moralism? I think many Christians today just want moralism. They don't really care about the gospel. They don't care about theology. They just want people to be good. Hey, don't do this. Don't do this. It's back to what fundamentalism turned into in many cases. Don't drink. Don't dance. Don't listen to rock and roll. Don't smoke. It just becomes a list of rules. Don't go to the movies. Don't wear a short skirt. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't go mixed bathing or, swimming with the opposite sex in a public swimming pool because that's mixed bathing and that's wrong. Don't do this. Women don't wear pants. Just don't do. Rules, law. And it turns into keeping the law. And it's even taught that you can keep it. It's a complete misunderstanding of the law of God. But it also it also overlooks an element. I know this element is somewhat controversial. We've talked about it in depth in our study of the law and gospel. We've talked about this, and I really want you to consider this. The concept that the law of God can incite or provoke sin, I will admit, is a complex and nuanced theological notion that has been debated and interpreted various ways throughout Christian history. Now, I put forth this argument all the time. The law of God. What happens is people just turn this into a sense of moralism. And I think this absolutely defeats, what are we hoping to accomplish by putting the law in the public classroom? Just to give sense of moralism? That goes against our desire really to spread the gospel and see people saved, not simply to clean people's lives up and make them a little bit better. Because what good is that if we believe that without the gospel, there's an eternity of suffering awaiting? Then we should be more concerned not with cleaning them up, but with them coming to the realization of their sin and putting their faith in Christ. But I have also stated that the law of God actually provokes and incites sinfulness. Now, this concept is complex and nuanced, and it has been debated throughout church history. That is a fact. Now, one of the key passages in the Bible that addresses this idea is found in the New Testament, specifically the letters of the Apostle Paul. For example, in the book of Romans, Paul discusses the role of the law in relation to sin. In Romans chapter 7, verses 7 through 25, Paul reflects on the function of the law of God in revealing sin and highlighting human disobedience. He acknowledges that the law is holy, just, and good. But he also emphasizes that the law can incite sinful desires within individuals. Paul writes that the commandments of the law can actually stir up sinful passions and lead to transgressions rather than preventing them. Now, this is a theological argument. You want the 10 Commandments posted everywhere. You may think it's going to prevent things. It may actually be, from a theological standpoint, actually inciting and provoking the very behavior you're seeking to stop. We read some of this in the book of Romans chapter 7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Certainly not. On the contrary, I would not have known sin except through the law. For I would not have known covetousness unless the law said, you shall not covet. But sin, taking opportunity by the commandment, produced in me. Now look, but listen, sin taking opportunity. I want you to hear that. Sin, taking opportunity by the commandment, produced in me all manner of evil desire. Sin takes the opportunity by the commandment. And then look, it produces in me all manner of evil desire. For apart from the law, sin was dead. The law actually provokes it. It brings it out. It produces all manner of evil desire. That's something that never is discussed. And again, because I think the church has such a poor understanding of the law of God. It has been so convoluted and hijacked. And I think a lot of our so-called gospels are nothing more than the law in disguise. I'm going to continue. I want you to hear that again. But sin, taking opportunity by the commandment, produced in me all manner of evil desire. For apart from the law, sin was dead. I was alive once without the law, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. When the law came, sin revived. And the commandment, which was to bring life, I found to bring death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, by it killed me. Therefore, the law is holy and the commandment holy, just and good. How then, has then what is good become death to me? Certainly not. But sin, that it might appear sin, was producing death in me through what is good. So that sin through the commandment might become exceedingly sinful. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For what I'm doing, I do not understand. For what I will to do, that I do not practice. But what I hate, that I do. If then I do if I do what I will not do, I agree with the law that is good. But now it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me. For I know that in me, that in my flesh, nothing good dwells. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that is good, I do not find. For the good that I will to do, I do not do, but the evil I will not to do, that I practice. Now, if I do what I will not do, it is no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me. Paul talks about how the law actually produces this. It provokes it. It incites it. Why? Because we have a sinful nature. Now, if you are a Pelagian or a semi-Pelagian, now if you're approaching the world from a Pelagian perspective, where men do not have a sinful nature, men are not, in a sense, guilty in Adam, and that sinful nature they did not inherit from Adam. They truly are free. Well, then by all means, publish the 10 Commandments then, I guess. Now, you still go back to my logical issue, then you got to let other religions publish their things. But the point is then maybe the 10 Commandments could actually do something, because everyone is just basically morally neutral. They're basically good. Okay, well then but that's not the way it works. The 10 Commandments are going to be seen by people who possess a sinful nature. And the 10 Commandments actually incites, provokes, brings it out. As one source says. Paul's argument about it inciting sin, producing sin, his argument revolves around the idea that human nature is inherently sinful, and the law serves to expose and amplify this sinful nature. The presence of the law reveals the depth of human depravity and our inability to perfectly fulfill its requirements. Instead of leading to our righteousness, the law can actually bring about a heightened awareness of sin and a sense of moral failure. Right? The law does not produce righteousness. The law produces death. It produces shame. It produces condemnation. It produces fear. It produces embarrassment. It produces discouragement because it destroys you. It breaks you. It humiliates you. It shoves your face in the mud and go, loser, failure. You can't do it. But while I teach the little kids the 10 Commandments, they sing the 10 Commandments. They have no clue what's going on, other than they are taught like, okay, I'm supposed to be good. I'm supposed to be good. I'm supposed to be good. And they feel shame and embarrassment and discouragement. They don't know what to do. And many of them have never really truly experienced and tasted the sweetness and the beauty of the gospel, which says you can't keep it, but Christ kept it for you. The tension between the law and sin is further explored in the broader context of Paul's theology of grace and salvation. Paul asserts that while the law may incite sin, it ultimately points to the need for redemption through faith in Jesus Christ. The law serves as a tutor, highlighting our need for a Savior and pointing us towards the grace of God that is found in Christ. The law's purpose is to drive you to Christ. The law is not to make you a good little boy and girl. The law is not to produce morality. It's to demonstrate the lack of morality that exists within us, and we need Christ. Our whole understanding of the law is so broken in American evangelicalism. In summary, the teaching that the law of God can incite sin is found in the writings of the Apostle Paul, particularly in his letters to the Romans, or in his letter to the Romans. Paul's reflections on the relationship between law and sin underscore the profound impact of the law in revealing human sinfulness and demonstrating the need of divine grace and redemption. It produces it. It leads to it. So you're like, well, we got to post the 10 Commandments everywhere. Okay, well, now, whenever I hear Christians say that, what do you want to accomplish? Almost inevitably, it will make people good. It will make people understand right from wrong. And it's always like and I'm like, do you not understand what the law is actually supposed to do? Have you not ever been taught in your church the actual use of the law? Are you so just confused by that? Do you not know that everyone has a sinful nature, and law and then the sin inside of us will work together only to bring about sin, inciting sin, rebellion, death? Do you not understand how it works at all? Some people just want Christianity to be nothing than a system of morality. Christianity gives us a morality in which we cannot keep. No one can. Just go to the Christian Post. Have you been reading the Christian Post recently? How we've got two very well-known prominent pastors who are in some serious trouble. Why? Because of sin. Now, but I'm telling you, there's sin in every church and every congregation and every pulpit, behind every microphone, whoever is speaking, including me, we are sinners. We are sinners. We sin. Sin is the norm. If you want to say, hey, it's 2:40 p.m. Central Time. Do you know what Christians are doing right now? They are sinning. Hey, it's now 3:40 p.m. Do you know what Christians are doing? Yes, they are sinning. Hey, it's 11 p.m. at night. Do you know what Christians are doing? Yes, they are sinning. Hey, it's Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Do you know what Christians are doing? They are sinning, because we all fall short in thought, word, and deed, because God's law demands absolute perfection. If you break one point of the law, you're guilty of all of it. You are in a perpetual state of sinfulness. You are in a perpetual state of failure. You're in a perpetual state of rebellion. And the only thing you can do is say, I can't do anything. And you're like, great. Turn to Christ. He took care of the law for you. He kept it perfectly. When you put your faith in him, positionally, you're declared to be perfect and holy, even though practically you're nothing, you're nowhere close to it. The law is there to say, guys, did you see the 10 Commandments? We're all messed up. We're in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We're in trouble. The 10 Commandments is the iceberg that sinks our ship, okay? We maybe think we're floating along fine, but we see 10 Commandments ahead. Boom, it goes down. Jack and Rose, they both die. There's not room on the board for either one of them. Okay, I'm quoting from the Titanic. Everyone goes down. No one survives. Everyone dies. The only hope is Christ, who keeps the law. He kept the law perfectly for you. Perfectly. When you put your faith in him, his obedience is accredited to your account. It doesn't make you righteous. It declares you to be righteous. So before God, you keep the law perfectly. In practice, you fall short constantly. My fear is we are logically inconsistent by demanding that the Ten Commandments are put in a public school, but we don't want anything else that goes against Christianity published in the public school. Because I mean, it's so weird. It's like so many times, if something else gets published in the school, like keep your politics out of the school, keep your agenda. We don't want your LGBTQ agenda. We don't this. We want these books banned. We want this banned. We don't like this. We don't like that. But hey, we want the 10 Commandments and we want the Bible. Well, keep your agenda out of it. What you take away from others, you take away from yourself. And if you demand the right, you've got to give the right. So that, and then secondly, it just seems to demonstrate to me that at least the Christians who get all up in arms, look, the politicians do it to win elections. I don't care what politicians do. I don't care at all. I can't stand the political process. Hate it all. But the Christians who get caught up in this as some great agenda, they think they're succeeding. It's like you're literally demonstrating a complete misunderstanding of the law of God, a complete theological incompetence. So, do your kids know the 10 Commandments? Now, before you want them to go to the public school and learn it, you do realize you can publish them in your house, right? You can post them in your house. You do realize your church can post them, right? So I don't know why you want the public school to do it. But here's the question. Do your kids know the 10 Commandments? Stop what you're doing right now and go say, hey, kids, do you know the 10 Commandments? And say, okay, tell me about the 10 Commandments. What does it mean? What do these commandments teach you? What do you understand about the commandments? What are they for? And report back to me what your kids say. Now, if one of your kids says, well, they show me that I cannot keep it and that I'm a sinner and my only hope is in Jesus Christ who kept it for me, and by putting my faith in him, his righteousness is accredited in my account. If they cannot articulate that at all, then guess what? You've taught the kids the law, but you've not given them the gospel. And you know why? Because it's easier to give them a list of 10 things to memorize than it is to try to explain what they actually mean. And sadly, your church is probably guilty of destroying any correct understanding of the gospel by so promoting morality. I've seen entire vacation Bible schools dedicated to the 10 Commandments. The kids walk out absolutely theologically on a path to hell. They're going to be like the rich young ruler. I've kept these since I was little. We can all keep the 10 Commandments. Well, then they'll trust in their own righteousness. And you know what's going to be the shocking discovery? That righteousness is not good enough to get into heaven. Ask your kids. Hey, someone keeps the 10 Commandments. They follow all 10. They do almost perfect in keeping them. Do they get to heaven? They understand heaven in terms of law keeping and being good. That's utterly that's anathema if we understand the gospel to be a gospel of what Christ did for us, not what we do. You're literally denying the very gospel. But go talk to your kids. Now, your kids may have it down. If you do, I would love to know that. If they don't, just be honest with it. I'm not going to call into question your parenting skills because we've all made that mistake. When you parent, we tend to parent from a law-based mentality, not a gospel-based mentality. We want behavioral modification. We typically are more worried about their behavior than we are their theological understanding. I mean, come on, let's be honest. You're a parent. I understand it. But it's something we have to at least acknowledge. And how are the kids turning out in your church? Now, that's where you should get concerned. Because if your church is turning out basically what's going to become little Pharisees and Sadducees who understand moralism, but they don't understand actually the gospel, that's horrifying. And then they'll grow up and want the 10 Commandments published in the public school, which is a complete demonstration of a lack of understanding the law of God. You want prayer in the public school? How about you open up your church and pray? You can open up your church 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can be praying there all the time. You can invite people in the neighborhood to come by and pray. We're going to have prayer at the top of each hour. No one's stopping you from praying. You want Bible in the public school. How about you put Bible back in the church? Stop all your foolish games and your youth programs where it's fun, food, and activity, and the kids are biblically illiterate. You want the 10 Commandments where I can't find them anywhere in your church. newsif@yahoo.com. newsif@yahoo.com. That's newsif@yahoo.com. And I can hear that sound. People are already, you heretic, you don't know what you're talking about. We're going to put God back in America. We're going to make America great again. Okay, and it's just going to turn into political nonsense is what it's going to turn into, which a very much a big spoonful of Christian nationalism is probably what I'm about to get in my comment section and news feed, or my email, not my news feed, my email. All right. Thank you for listening. I know now I've become your least favorite podcaster, but you know what? Sooner or later it had to happen. And trust me, it's not you, it's me. It's okay. I know the breakup will be hard, but it's not you, it's all me. I'll take the blame. We were never meant to be. All right, have a great day. God bless.